Welcome, cellar dwellers, to the Matthew Street channel. I am your host, Matthew Street, and I really appreciate you being here, live from the cavern in my parents' basement. And folks, if you'll allow me and indulge me, I'd like to tell you a little music story. Not a cautionary tale, kind of a tale of redemption in the end. The tale of rising up from the ashes, so to speak, and having an impact on the people who love your music and your fans. Now, we all love music. We're here, we're in YouTube, we watch the vinyl community, the music community, we're into the Beatles, many of us. We love music. But sometimes for some people, just loving music isn't what it's all about. They want to learn to play and create music. So they learn a craft, they learn an instrument. Maybe they're multi-instrumentalist. Maybe they get so good at their instrument that they're able to play out. Maybe join a band. Maybe it's just a cover band who does local shows when they're teenagers in school, or maybe it goes beyond that and they play local clubs or local venues. They make a little bit of money. Maybe they go beyond just playing covers. Maybe they play originals. Maybe they write and create their own original music. As you see, as we're going up this hill, the pyramid gets narrower and narrower, folks. Less and less people go on to the next step. Many people love music. Many people learn to play music. Many people join a band. Many people play cover music. Many people play original music. See what I'm saying? The pyramid gets narrower. Maybe they're playing that original music, writing their own songs and tunes, playing some local shows, maybe playing out a little bit, etc. And maybe they're good enough, their original music is good enough to get signed by a record label. Whoa! How hard is it to get to that level? Oh yeah, you love music, you play music, you're in a band, you do covers, you're writing your own music and material, but for that music material, that original material, to be good enough to get signed by a record label, very hard to do, very rare, almost like winning the lottery, folks. Think about it. So you get signed by a record label, you're making original music, creating original music, and it starts to sell. People like this original music. People like what you're creating. You may even have a song or two that gets played on rock radio or FM radio or in this day and age, satellite radio. And a buzz starts growing for you and your music or your band and its music. Have you made it? Is that the pinnacle? Have you made it to the top? Well, maybe not. Not necessarily. Because even though the buzz is growing for you, even though your songs are getting played on the radio and people are liking it, and it's going nationwide on all different FM rock radio stations, you're getting played and you're starting to build and the following's growing and the records are starting to sell, something out of your control could happen. The label could have issues, so to speak. Maybe the label just shuts down completely. It was kind of, living by a lick and a promise, and it just couldn't survive. And it got you to a certain level, and then the label folds right under your feet. What do you do then? Or maybe the label is still there, but it just changes personnel. There's a big shakeup at the label. And the people who were so behind you and supported you and signed you to the label, suddenly they're thrust out, because new personnel come in, and there's a big shakeup at the label. Goodbye, old people. Hello, new people. Oh, we don't care about these artists. We didn't sign them. See you later. Gone. Done. And you're dropped by the label. The new people say the heck with it. Now what do? You made it that far up. You started from just a young fan as a young person, liking music, to creating it, to playing music, to getting up to the top of that pinnacle. Almost there. Almost getting that national recognition and being known by music lovers worldwide, and then the rug's pulled out from under you. But that doesn't mean the talent is gone or the talent isn't there. It's there. But it can be devastating. Well, I want to tell you a story about a band that started in 1982 in Holyoke, Northampton, Mass area, Western Massachusetts area. The band was called The Sighs, S-I-G-H-S, The Sighs. And I'll show you a promotional picture of that band right now that I happen to have, an 8x10. So you can see what the guys look like. And there's the name, The Sighs. Charisma Records, a subdivision major label of Virgin Records. Okay. So the Size, 1982, they start out in Western Massachusetts. You got Robert LaRoche on lead vocals and guitar. You got Matt Cullen playing lead guitar and background vocals. You got Tommy Pluta on bass and background vocals. You got Tom Borowski on drums and background vocals. And this is a band that should have been, they came out in the early 90s, started getting big in the early 90s. I'll tell you about that. This band, their music is as good, or if not better, in my opinion, than bands like the Gin Blossoms, Hootie and the Blowfish, who both came out around and got big around that early 90s period. These guys, the Size, had the talent, the skill, the songs, better than those two bands, in my opinion. And I love those two bands, especially the Gin Blossoms. So they start out in, like I said, early 80s. They start out in the Northeast United States playing shows around. They even released a self-titled EP in 1985, a couple of years after they got together. Just young teenagers, kids. Here is that EP, 12-inch, The Size. A couple of different members back then, but here it's 4-song EP. All right. Very rare and nice to have this. Very nice collectible. I'll even show you what the label looks like. A custom label. The Size. Okay. And that was put out on Relief Records. Get this if you can get this EP. 4-song great EP, folks. So, like I said, they start out in 1982, young teenagers. In 1985, they put out that self-titled EP. They're doing shows in the Northeast, in the New York City area. And they happen to be playing in New York City, and this great producer called John D. Nicola sees their talent, and signs them to Charisma Records, which is a subdivision of Virgin Records, as I said. And their music was so good. Great rock and roll, great modern power pop, that in 1982, 10 years after they formed, 7 years after they put out that self-titled EP, Virgin Subdivision Charisma Records puts out their first album called What Goes On. And here it is right here. I do not believe it's on vinyl, so I don't think you can get it, but there it is. A fabulous album, folks. Get this album, What Goes On, by The Size. 1992, comes out, major label release. To me, it's one of the top 3 albums of the 90s. It's my absolute favorite album of 1992, produced by the famous Ed Stasium, who worked with the Ramones, the Smithereens, the Jeff Healey Band, Marshall Crenshaw, power pop, harmonies, melodies, soaring guitars, just vocals are fabulous. Every track is a winner on here. And 2 of the songs, Think About Soul and Make You Cry, were the singles from this album. That's how I discovered The Size in 1992. I didn't know of them. I live in Eastern Mass. They came out of Western Mass. I didn't know of them till this album came out. I'm listening to my favorite FM rock radio station at the time. It was called 94HJY, the home of rock and roll in Providence, Rhode Island. And I heard those 2 songs, Make You Cry and Think About Soul. And folks, I was sold. Instant fan. Love this band. The airplay was growing. They're getting known. It's getting played on FM radio. These songs are getting big all across the country on FM rock radio, moving up the charts, the modern rock charts and whatnot. Airplay's going up and up and up. You think they've made it. They're almost to the top of the pinnacle. They're going to be as big as Hootie and the Blowfish, as big as the Gin Blossoms. And what do you know? Charisma Records was dying within Virgin Records. Zero promotion hardly for this album not long after it came out. Charisma was fading and dying. The parent company, Virgin Records, had a major label shakeup right after this album comes out, which left The Size with no label support. None. So the label folds. Charisma folds. Not Virgin, but Charisma did, and everybody who had albums out or coming out on Charisma, cut off. Done. That's it. What are you going to do? Killed everything right in its tracks. The Size persevered, though. They lost their major label deal. They were cut from Virgin Charisma. 4 years later, they tried with a follow-up called Different, which came out on power pop label called Big Deal Records. In 1996, this album came out. No major label backing, but Big Deal Records did their best to promote it, support it. It went kind of unnoticed, and you know what? It's not a bad album, folks. It's to me just about as good as What Goes On. It's not a bad album at all. I enjoy it. I like it. Here's the inside. And unfortunately, folks, after this in 1996, the Size went their separate ways. They tried with the second album. Didn't happen. And they did their own things. Robert LaRoche moved to Texas, did his own thing. Matt Cullen moved to Iowa, did his own thing. I believe Tommy and Tom stayed in Western Massachusetts. And they did their own things for many, many, many years. But then they started doing a series of annual reunion shows. They would come back to Western Massachusetts like once a year, the four of them. And these reunion shows, done annually, once annually, did so well that they decided to record again after many, many old years. Matt Cullen went back to the old tapes, and he dug up a bunch of old demos that were done around the time of What Goes On in the early 90s. They took a bunch of these demos, picked the best ones, and got together and properly recorded these demos brand new in 2017 and put out their first full-length album in 21 years called Wait on Another Day. And here it is right here, folks. Independently released on a small label. They put this out, and folks, let me tell you, it is absolutely fantastic, outstanding return to form. Picks up right where What Goes On and Different left off. It's just fabulous material. It's older material, but they recorded it brand new in 2017. The four guys, original members. And folks, absolutely love it, love it, love it. And the label is called OMAD Records. O-M-A-D, OMAD or OMAD Records. It's fresh, new, exciting, it's vital. 2017 release, fabulous. They sound great on it. It's like, I miss talking about this because it came out right when I was starting my channel. I wish I had back in the day, but I was just starting my channel, getting into the Beatles videos and that. But this is a fabulous album, just getting started. But I want to talk about it now. It's 5 years old, but folks, get this album, Wait on Another Day. You're going to love it. They sound fabulous, absolutely fabulous. Such a triumph that they could do this after 21 years. They could get back together, record these old demos, and make them sound today and fresh. It's a fine rock and roll power pop album. Fits right in with their other two full-length albums, folks. Absolutely fabulous. Should be top 10. This is an album that should be top 10 album. It's that good. I love it. Absolutely love it. Continue to do their annual shows. And then a few years later, after 2017 releasing Wait on Another Day, the guys got together and said, let's do some new original music. All right, the old demos recorded new were great on this album. They said, let's get together. So in April of 2020, just at the start of the pandemic, figures, they released a brand new 5-song EP called Tearing My Heart Again. First new music in 20 plus years from the Size. Folks, this is absolutely wonderful. It also continues on OMAD Records, O-M-A-D, OMAD Records. You can look up their site. This 5-song EP got many accolades when it came out in 2020, folks. People loved it. It's got a song called Tearing My Heart Again, Praying to the Saints, Redemption, Over the Line, and Rise. And they couldn't promote it the way they wanted to because of the pandemic and what was going on. Different shows got canceled, as you know, in 2020 and whatnot. But folks, they did the best they could to promote it. Here's the back showing the four guys walking together. The titles of the songs. Folks, pick up this EP if you get a chance. Pick up everything by The Size that's been released. It's absolutely fabulous. Go to thesize.com. They have a website. Go to OMAD Records, and you can get all this stuff. It's absolutely fabulous. The Size sounds so good, folks. Modern, Wonderful power pop, rock and roll, pristine, beautiful vocals, harmonies to die for. The musicianship is absolutely fantastic, top notch. I mean, I'm just praying that they'll come back with a part 2 on this EP for another 5 songs or so we can have almost like a full new Size album. I hope so. And the nice special thing for me, folks, is the Size are doing their annual show, their annual reunion show in Western Massachusetts is coming up in June. And yes, Matt Street will be there. I've got my tickets and I'm going to see the Size for the first time ever in their career. I've never seen them. I've always wanted to, but I am going to see them in June in Western Massachusetts for the annual show, and I can't wait, folks. So it's a story of redemption. It's a story of rising from the ashes and keeping that love of music alive and flowing and going and not giving up. All right, despite almost making it to the pinnacle, to the top, and then things out of your control cut everything off. It's just a horrible feeling, but you know what? These guys didn't give up. They came back with another album. And years later, 20 plus years later, they come out with another full length. And now, just a couple of years ago, they come out with a brand new EP and hopefully new music on the horizon. Folks, check out the Size. You will not be sorry. Go to their website. I'll put the link below. Go to Omad Records. I will put the link below. It's a story of rock and roll, folks. It's a story of music. It's a story of the love of music and producing and creating your own artistic pieces of work, music that people can love and enjoy. I know many of you out there know of this band. Tell me about it. And for those of you that don't, I highly recommend you run out and get some of their music, folks. And you will not be sorry. You will come back here and thank me. Love you all. And to the Size, peace and love. All the best. New music on the horizon, I hope. And I can't wait to see you live in June. A fabulous band. A wonderful band. Rock and roll. That's what it's all about. Bye-bye.